Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to take you on a guide through the best decks in MTG Arena Standard Best of 1. If you are looking to get to Mythic rank, if you're looking to level up your game, if you are just looking to find cool decks to take on the Magic the Gathering experience to play in Standard, this is the video for you. We're going to cover all the decks in terms of popularity, the win rates. We're going to look at some community decks that are doing well as well, that are a little off meta. We did do an entire video for off meta decks that people got to Mythic with, so that one's there. And then for some of these, I do have gameplay videos up on my channel as well, so if you're interested, I am going to take a chance, hopefully over the next week or so, for the more common decks, now that we start having an established meta, to have gameplay demos for folks as well. So as we see the screen, we get the data from Untapped.gg, companion tool that runs alongside Arena's client. So it tracks your win rates, aggregates with a bunch of other users, gives a whole bunch of cool stats. So the folks at Untapped, they did send me a couple promo codes for Untapped Premium that I will be giving away. This is in sponsorship. They have a new limited section that you see at the top. So they have a whole bunch of new tier lists. They have card kind of stats in terms of most proficient cards, trophy decks, card ratings, a whole bunch of cool stuff. So definitely check them out. I am going to be doing a giveaway, so I will randomly choose some folks in the YouTube comments. So comment your favorite deck, and then towards the end of the week, I will give away. I'll reach out to folks. We did this a little bit ago with the Arena Premium codes, so you can get the full access to Untapped. If you just want to track your game and stuff like that, the link for Untapped is in the video description. Untapped Premium, they are doing a special in terms of a discount as well, so if you're interested in that. So yeah, comment your favorite standard deck. I'll do a draw to give away a bunch of free codes thanks to the folks at Untapped. So we're going to start with popularity of the day, and then we're going to go to the deck list stats. I'll paste all the deck lists as always, so don't worry, you don't have to copy and paste at like super fast neck speeds. We are going to look, actually, let's shift it to Platinum to Mythic. In terms of popularity of the day, Rakdos Aggro is at 18%. So this Rakdos Aggro stat is going to be a mix between the mono red we play Calicel Sword Aggro, Rakdos Aggro, and then the Lizards deck as well. So it kind of bundles into that. We have mono red, strictly mono red at 9%. Rabbits at 8.3%. Orzhov Bats 6%. Then we have the Vraska combo deck at about 5%. Azorius Control, Discard, and Mono Black Midrange kind of tailing it off. So those are kind of the stats. If we look, we see the Rakdos Aggro deck kind of pick up in popularity. We're also seeing the Rabbits deck pick up a little bit more. Mono Red's kind of tapering off, where we might just have folks kind of picking up that kind of alternate deck. We see the actual Orzhov deck kind of drop a little this week. So for the most part, we're going to do Diamond and Mythic rank for it. There's a couple decks that I picked up from Platinum. It's still only like the first week, third of the month, so some folks might still be in Platinum. And if we look, we have 97,000 games here. If we go to the Platinum rank, we have 430,000. So it's about 3 times more folks kind of in the population. But Diamond usually is a little bit more competitive to kind of give us a sample of the best deck. So in terms of win rates, first deck up, Mono Red Aggro. We got a mouse deck, but not really mouse. It's kind of Mono Red hybrid mice, slick shot, show off, 65% on this one here. So we have your traditional culprits of Mono Red: Swiss Spear, Monstrous Rage, Shock, slick shot, show offs. If you have Monstrous Rage in paper, if you drafted a lot of Wildiva Drains, these are like $5+ now. So if you have like a bunch of bulk, it might just be worth selling them if you don't use them right now. Then you have your pump effects, Blazing Crescendo for pump as well as card advantage, Demonic Ruckus, as well as Lightning Strike to supplement the shock. Then we get the mouse package. So Heartfire Hero, when you target it for the first time. So Valiant is like heroic, but it's only once per turn, and it's spells or abilities. So something like the Rockface Village, targeting your creature, also then provides you that Valiant trigger. So the Heartfire Hero puts a counter on it, and then when it dies, deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. We have that. We have Ember Heart Challenger as a way to haste prowess. So naturally, what you want in these aggressive shells. And then when you target it for the first time, you get to exile top card of your library. You can play it till the end of turn. And then this version here is actually playing Manifold Mouse as well. So this is build your own Embercleave at home with a mouse. So it has Offspring, so you can make a copy of it for 2 additional mana. And then at the beginning of your combat, target mouse. So notably, only mice can be targeted. Gains your choice of double strike or trample. If you have 2, well, it builds your Embercleave package on it. And then this also triggers Valiant because it's an ability. The Rockface Village can give any of your mice haste. From there, we go to Rakdos Aggro. So this is what I was saying with this one's just a shade under at 65. So we had like 65.4 and then 64.8. So fractional percentages. Very similar in terms of the concepts. This deck here, you're playing more pump effects. So you have Dreadmaw's Ire in here. Notably with this one here, it actually got rid of the Scamp. We've seen Cacophony Scamp in a lot of these decks. This version here is trying out the Manifold Mouse. And notably, it's just ignoring playing black mana. Some of them will play Sulphur Springs as well as the Black Fastland, but a lot of the same similarities. You're just using Callous Sellsword as a way to fling your creature to your opponent. So similar ideas, just taken a little bit different. We then go to Mono Black. They're calling it aggro. It's Mono Black Midrange control, so 64%. So this one is not that heavy discard package. It's basically, I'm going to kill your thing 20 times over and then just stick something down and win that way there. So, Cut Down, Anointed with Affliction, Bitter Triumph, Go for the Throat, or Malicious Eclipse. What if all your creatures were to die? There's a lot of decks that are looking to go wide in this format. Well, Malicious Eclipse gives Mono Black a kind of 3 mana sweeper style effect that doesn't hit any of your creatures. Preacher, Sheoldred, Hostile Investigator, Aclazotz as your win conditions. You also have Virtue of Persistence. This deck is just looking to really grind away at your opponent while hopefully not running into, a control deck or something where 80% of your cards do nothing. Full Moirex package, 2 demolition fields to blow up your opponent's utility lands, lilies in here as well. We then go to 4-color domain. So Traxa domain decks still exist. They're basically a green-white deck that is utilizing cards like Heaped Harvest now. This card's filling that ramp role while also giving you some life, which is nice. There's a lot of still incidental life gains in this deck between Heaped Harvest, Herd Migration, kind of help you set up. Archangel of Wrath, this version's on the full temp lockdowns main, or 3 temp lockdowns, full Sunfall main. You still have your Caverns, Fable Passage, and then it's leveraging some of these Surveil lands as ways. So some of them will play like off-color Surveils. This one's just playing the Swamp Mountain. That can be fetched with either Fable Passage, Heap Harvest, to kind of build you your domain package in terms of lands. Up the Beanstalk for card advantage, Get Lost as some more removal options, along with Leyline Binding as a flexible removal option. Bats, Orzhov Bats. So life gain kind of synergy deck. So this version here is more all in on bats. It's at 58%. There's some that'll play like a black-white mid version that plays like Amalia and stuff. Zorlin's been pretty impressive every time I've run up against it. Flying Vigilance gains life. Whenever a bat you control attacks, and then when it enters the battlefield, you can pay black-white and 2 life, and you can return target non-land permanent with 3 CMC or less. Starscape Cleric can be Offspring, give you some value. Whenever you gain life, each opponent loses life. So you got a bunch of flyers. Essence Chandler gets Bigler. Rune Lurker Bat is a way to gain some life and kind of set up your draw potentially. This version's actually got a lot of kind of incidental card advantage. Darkstar Augur can put cards into your hand. You have a lot of cheap evasive flyers, which plays really nice with Gix that we've seen in past sets and like the the blue-black or Esper kind of mid-range shells. Go for the Throats as removal. Deep Cavern Bat as kind of incidental hand hate. Case of the Uneaten Feast as another way to gain some life. The only thing I would maybe consider, maybe trim on like a Zorlin, maybe trim on like another Augur, and then just play some cut downs instead. Just having some more 1 mana interaction could be useful. This deck also takes advantage of Mudflat Village as a way to kind of bring back a bat that dies for some value in the deck. Hate playing Thran Portals, but some of these aggressively slanted decks do need another untapped duel. or dual land in the sense that it can be each color depending on what you need it for. That you choose your color. Selesnya Rabbits, 58%. So this is a kind of tokeny, go wide, go tall deck, which we've seen at times from the white decks. Paw Patch Recruit, 2 creatures for 1 for 3 mana. Whenever the creature becomes a target, you get to distribute counters kind of accordingly. Seasoned Warguard is a 1 mana 1/2, but if you have a token, which is pretty easy in this deck, it attacks as though it's a 3/2, which is really good stats for a 1-drop. The Valley Might Caller gets bigger every time a rabbit comes into play. So this can be a 1 mana 1/1 trampler that just scales and becomes 5, 6, 7 power potentially. Burrow Guard Mentor is powered toughness equal to number of creatures you control, has trample, which is really nice, seeing it kind of replace the Regal Bunnicorn, which while it gets bigger from like your non-creature spells, things like Case the Gateway Express, it not having trample, just getting chumped, is just not as effective. Case of the Gateway Express is removal and Anthem. Phineas can distribute counters and potentially draw you cards. Pollen Hair as a pump effect, and then Anthem for your tokens. The Valley Quest Caller is another Lord that also then sets up your top decks with Scrying. Hop to it, 3 bodies for 3 mana that then trigger like Valley Might Caller, play the token theme, just really plays into the deck. Night Air and Abios is kind of that. I'm playing a white-based creature deck. Well, here's my card advantage engine in the night. Playing some Okalo Villages for value, Restless Prairie, and then Caverns to name. Likely Rabbit first, and then maybe Human. You do incidentally have Warrior as well. These are a lot of warriors. So you have Soldier, Archer. So you probably name Rabbit, and then you could potentially name Warrior as well. You got some utility in terms. There's enough overlap. Golgari Midrange. So this is a combo deck in a way, 56%. So for those unfamiliar with the combo, Innkeeper's Talent, if you get it up to its last level, basically becomes doubling season. So you can instant alt Liliana, make them sacrifice a whole bunch of stuff, or instant alt Vraska and give them 18 poison counters and kill them that way there. The rest of the deck is your kind of meat and potatoes Golgari midrange deck. Dread Knight for kind of that card advantage. Glissa shores up the board. Then bunch of removal, disruption with the Deep Cavern Bats, Preachers, Thought Stalker Warlock for hand hate, some Shellies, Gix Commands, Aklazad. So just a lot of interaction, different kind of hand hates, value pieces in the deck. It's just, you can kind of outgrind the mid-range 1 for 1, and then just try to pop off with the Vraska. A card that I've seen in Best of 1 a bit that I've liked is Phyrexian Flesh Gorger for just a 3 mana threat that you can put counters on with Innkeeper. It helps race a lot of the aggressive decks. So even when you're not necessarily comboing off, it's just hard for mono red or stuff like that to kind of race you when you're getting 4 or 5 life a turn. And it makes targeting it also a little difficult between potential ward, thanks to Innkeeper's Talent, plus the tax of them taking damage. Then go to Boros Mice, 58%. So this is another creature kind of focused deck. This one is playing a bunch of mice to take advantage of effects. So you have the Manifold Mouse, which we've highlighted, Emberheart Challenger. Nettle Guard can blow up artifacts or enchantments in case there's like incidental lockdowns, stuff like that. You have Cheeky House Mouse, which triggers the Valiant and is just a 2/1 mouse. Flowerfoot Swordmaster, whenever it gets targeted, your mice get +1/0 till end of turn. Lost Jite is a way to trigger Valiant, just equipping it each turn. Might of the Meek for basically another kind of monstrous rage style effect. Not as much incidental power, but it replaces itself with card advantage. Rabid Gnaw as a fight effect. We played a game of this in Best 3. It actually felt pretty strong, a variation of this. Mabel Erta Craig Flame is a way to create another equipment that is just a very strong +1 Vigilance Trample Haste for 2 mana. Is a pretty good rate, all things considered. War Leader's Call as a ping effect, and then some Lightning Helix in here. May want some more Lightning Helix over the War Leader's Call, can help in just terms of the race, but I think if you play like some of these 2-color aggro decks, playing like a similar type to Leverage Cavern just helps in terms of having that additional untapped land. Otherwise, it's a little rough in terms of what's available. You can also play the Pain land in here that they're missing. That would be one of the easiest additions in terms of just improving the mana base. Rakdos Lizards. So Lizards cares about dealing incidental pings for payoff. So the Iridescent Vine Slasher is a really nice enabler. Lands ping your opponent for 1. The Hired Claw upon attack can ping opponent for 1. So if your opponent took damage, there's utility because Flame Cash Gecko is basically like Burning Tree Emissary then, lets you cast multiple spells per turn. Gev, whenever you cast a whenever a lizard, sorry, let me say that again. Whenever you cast a lizard, it deals 1 damage to target, and then whenever other creatures come into play, if an opponent lost life this turn, it gets counters. So they care about stuff like that. Fireglass Mentor provides you card advantage if an opponent lost life. Fake Your Own Death is just kind of a scam style effect. You got a bunch of removal between Bitter Tribes. Cut downs, Jasper's card advantage engine. Scales of Shade is potentially 1 mana lifelink indestructible, depending on how many of your lizards you have. And then Valley Flamecaller just adds an additional damage based on for every lizard dealing damage. So the Vine Slasher deals 2 damage for every line coming into play. Like the Gev deals 2 damage, so it just kind of scales the damage itself. Another deck that takes advantage of Cavern of Souls in it. And a couple community decks. So this is a deck we played a variation we showcased last week that we kind of saw was doing really well in the ladder. We kind of played a variation and people have been picking it up. It is Boros Token Control. So this player here, unfortunately, cannot pronounce their name, but 70 and 21 with this list absolutely bullies both mono red and the mono black decks. Has a hard time into like blue white control is a little tricky. Anything with like a lot of counters could be, but you could usually, if you could stick a forge, you can win that way there. But oddly, the mirror is hard. It depends who gets ahead with the forge. So this deck here, we'll take a look at the arena view. It's leveraging the card Caretaker's Talent. So this card here, whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield, you get to draw a card once per turn. And so you basically get, with Urabrass Forge, you get a card to draw every turn. Thanks to the Forge, it's just an incidental win condition. You can copy the Forge token with level 2, and it doesn't get sacrificed at the end of turn. And then the last mode, your creature tokens get +2/2. It's mainly there for its first ability. And then when you're later in the game, you can basically just play your tokens. So you're playing with the value kind of engine there. Things like Carrot Cake gain you life, give you tokens that play into the theme. Get Lost, Torch the Tower, Elspeth Spite, Lightning Helix is removal, Temporary Lockdown is a sweeper. This version is playing 2 Bezos, which is a nice addition to the deck. Gains you some life gain, kind of helps stabilize, can provide you some card advantage. Archangel Elspeth in here as another kind of token enabler, life gainer, Sunfall on the top end. I'm curious to see with this list how many lands, because we were playing 28, which seemed like a lot. So 24, 26. Yeah, so they went to 26, which I think was all right. This version here is playing the Sunken Citadel Mountain Port. I was playing Myrex over the Sunken Citadel in the end. I found there was a little bit too many tap lines. But Demolition Field's an interesting. Fountain Port's really strong because you can sack the token from Urabrass Forge each turn and then draw a card. So it's another kind of card draw engine in the deck. But really like this deck. It's really fun. It can really punish the aggressively slanted ladder and creature decks. And then lastly, we have from Nab's profile. They were doing pretty solid. They had a little bit of a losing streak, but kind of recovered here. This is Azorius Synthesizer. So Simulacrum Synthesizer cares about you casting artifacts with 3 CMC or more, and it gives you a construct, a creature with power toughness equal to the number of artifacts you control. So you're playing things like Thran Spider, Braided Net, Thousand Mood Smithy, Mightstone Meekstone, Steel Seraph, kind of always to kind of prop it. Chimley is another kind of discovered card advantage. You have Ramp in the Fabrication Foundry, so some value there. You have Get Lost, Spring-Loaded Saw Blades is an artifact that then also can be removal and a win condition later by flipping. You have 3 steps ahead as counters in here. The Steel Seraph's really nice because you can make these big constructs, but this gives flying, so it gives you some evasion in the deck itself. They have a sideboard here. It doesn't actually matter for this. In terms of best of 1, there's no cards that interact with the sideboard. So that is it for the week. I will say, if you are interested in mono red and taking a best of 3 deck, I have a 2-hour VOD of me fine-tuning a mono red deck for best of 3. for the upcoming store championship. Want to win that Techless Urza's Saga. So it kind of walks you through the process, gives you some idea in terms of how I approach sideboarding for matchups, how to kind of refine a deck, how to build a deck that, you know, in best of one, you could be very linear. Best of three, you have to consider different things in terms of how you want to build the deck and stuff of that nature. But definitely check that out. And if you like this Boros deck, check out the standard playlist. We're going to start getting more gameplay videos up hopefully in the next week. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one and stay safe out there.